Kenny, how do you feel some of the freshmen and some of the lower guys on the depth chart are progressing along in their development this season?
Yeah, I mean, we're focusing on special teams with those guys here. I mean, we spent about 30 minutes on it in 2 days with just that group to see who can help us there while maintaining their red shirts. And it's pretty impressive, to be honest. Plaz, Rodney, Albert, Celessi, that's just naming a few, Chris Johnson, that are starting to whoa, those guys can help us.
What excites you about their future here at this program?
Speed. When we have speed. Our young guys are athletic, our young guys are fast. And they like football.
Rodney obviously made a few plays here at the back end of practice. Do you think that he could be one of the guys that step up if Javen has to miss some time?
100%. And Javen's doing well. I still don't know where that's going to progress, but he is doing well. Things are better than what we kind of expected for him. But he still did have a real injury, so we still got to progress him back, according to the doctors.
Does transfer and NIL change your thinking, maybe compared to years past, as far as redshirting, not redshirting a player?
Actually, when the current model of revenue share, I actually think redshirting is more important now than ever. I think you can get guys to come back later in their career more than they maybe would have if they already had a degree or already had a master's and they want to go move on or they want to get into the real world. Now you can still make an income in college football as this thing starts to evolve towards revenue share. So it's more important now, I think.
So as you're going through the self-scout this week, any areas of emphasis that maybe were different last bye week?
Well, yeah, our red zone is way better. That's been we got a red zone stop last week as well. So that's been an improvement. So that's definitely different. I mean, for us right now, it's not as much situational. When we went into the last bye week, we saw some situations we needed to improve at. Obviously, defensively, third downs, we had a better third down day. That's something we got to get better at. Offensively, third and short, that's an area that we're really looking at to say, okay, how can we improve, tweak, change what we're doing in that area? What's good for us? What's bad? Has tempo been good? Has tempo been bad? So we're looking at those things, but more it's what packages do we want to put together? What third down presentations do we want to bring? What different pressures do we want to bring? On offense, what new formations or things that we haven't shown do we want to bring out at this stage? It's more stuff like that in terms of, you always hide a piece of your menu or keep a piece of your menu that you haven't shown that you've practiced in fall camp. What haven't we done as much of that we practice that we can pull from and show a little different wrinkle here in the next 5 weeks.
So on that note, it looks like against Cincinnati, you probably ran 21 personnel, just two-back personnel, more often than games before. When you look back at the film, how pleased were you with that specific aspect?
Yeah, it was really nice. It was a really good thing for us. I've been a split back guy for most of my career. I've lived in a lot of 20 and 21, probably more than the average team in college football. So it's nice to have backs that you can do that. And I think as we progress, maybe not this year, but in future years, I would hope that we can have that ability to be in, split back more than we were earlier in the year. And part of that was due to injuries. DeCarlos was banged up, Release been banged up. So we want to, put in, have two guys that take 80 snaps a game. So hopefully as we progress in the program, we can build more of that.
And Coach was going to say, with that too, do you, when you're saying obviously adding new stuff you haven't put in, but I guess from the last bye week to this one is kind of the installation of that and not, I think you had said almost kind of put too much in for both offense and defense.
Yeah, it's not putting new things in. It's self-scouting. What have we practiced a ton in fall, in spring, in summer that we maybe haven't gotten called or we haven't played teams that have made us want to call it. And, we practiced that 37 times. We've called it twice. We need to lean on that more in the second half of the season because we repped it a lot, and we haven't seen it. We haven't called it a lot. So it's not putting new things in at all. I don't want to come out here and put new things. It's how can we pull the time that we've used on certain things that maybe haven't been equally balanced in a game and start leaning into those things a little bit more than we have. So it's more of that.
Considering the decisions you've had to make on third and fourth down, how important would you say analytics have necessarily been to just kind of your coaching style and those decision making, considering those decisions? And how do you feel like analytics has kind of changed over the years with kind of those clutch time decisions you feel like?
Yeah, well, I don't use the book. I kind of know I use the book at Auburn, I use the book at Memphis, I use the book at Florida State, I use the book at Oregon, right? So I kind of have a very strong guess, I would say, even though it's not a guess. That book doesn't change very much week by week. I have a very strong opinion of what are the automatic goes. Like, if you get a 4th and 1 anywhere on the field, that book is most of the books outside of the 20 are going to tell you it's a go. Now, that's a little bit more aggressive than I would like to be. You know, if we're on our own 20, you know, I've really gone for those. But you know, most of the time when you get to the 40, you know, 35, the minus 35, 2 becomes very lenient to go. When you get to the 40 plus, then you're talking 3 and more, and then it becomes more aggressive. Very rarely does it become less aggressive. So I kind of go off the feel of the game, combined with what I know it roughly says it should do, but I never just use that. There's times this year that I've punted short yard situations. There are times that I've gone for a 4th and 7 in a game, like the week prior versus Utah. Went for a 4th and 7, converted. But so there's times it goes both ways. It's a combination of the analytics and the book. In terms of the sports as a whole, people are going for it at a much higher rate. The punting it is actually probably more abnormal now. In the old school ways when they would say, oh, it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, we're punting. That's actually, I haven't looked at it, but I would bet you more teams go for it in those scenarios now than they actually do punt it. Punting is actually the more rare thing, which is crazy, but that's just the nature of the analytics and how people have bought into it and started to believe in it.
You talked about on Monday getting some more guys involved in the offense. You talked about Guillory getting into a little bit of rhythm there. Is there any other guys this home stretch of the season you want to get more involved and more targets?
Yeah, Shaman, Sip. I think we can get Stovall a little bit more involved as well.
So, I mean, are you coming out of the bye week tempted or less tempted to really introduce more plays, open up the playbook more? I mean, does the bye week really allow you to do that, or does it really make a difference?
It allows you to try to tilt what plays you're putting in and installing to your strengths. So I don't know if a new play is technically that, but it's more saying, okay, we've had this play and we've called it twice. Maybe we should call this twice a game, not twice in the first 7 games, or vice versa. Hey, all of our pressure, our blank coverage is giving up 60% on 3rd downs. Whereas this coverage is giving up a 12% return on 3rd downs. Maybe we should invest more in this as opposed to this as we progress the season. So nothing should be new. This should just be the percentage of what you're doing should be stronger based off of strengths, weaknesses, and then you got to look at your future opponents. What are you going to see? So what can you practice? Because what are you going to call based off future opponents? So it's kind of that melting pot of things.
Have you coached in a season where you have 2 mid-season buys?
No.
How does that help you, help the team kind of?
You get another day, another week of rest. You know, some people, you know, you have to have a lot of depth to go through a bye and bang. And to be honest, some of the best teams in the country, they get into a bye and they go to work. And it's a grind and it is a absolute, and like that's more where my belief leans to. Like, let's go to work. But we're not the depth and that we're building. We're in year 2. We have way more depth than last year, but for us to come out here and bang like crazy, I think would do us a disservice, even though it's what I'm used to in my career. So I think this is good for us because we got to keep our guys healthy. We got to keep our guys in the field. So it gives us another week to really kind of get all the hamstrings and the twisted ankles and the shoulders that just don't feel great kind of better. As you can see, our guys have been in helmets the first 2 days. You know, we'll go in pads tomorrow, but our vets, we've really tried to give them this time to get ready and go be the very best version of ourselves for the last 5 weeks of the season.
Are there any disadvantages or adjustments to having 2 bye weeks in the season?
I don't know about a disadvantage. Maybe if you were in a rhythm. Now, luckily for us, we've lost both games for the bye, so we do not have a rhythm when we go into the bye. But maybe if you were in a really good rhythm and you're cruising, like you're going. You know, for us, we haven't really had a normal week this year. There has been no rhythm. Hey, Sunday you wake up, you do this. Monday you do this. It's this week you play on Thursday. This week you play on Friday. This week you have a bye. This week you travel for a 12 a.m. game. So we don't really have that rhythm, so I don't really know if there's a negative. Here at the back end of the season, we'll have 4 straight weeks of a really good, of a normal, you know, I would say college football schedule rhythm.
Some big road tests coming up, obviously, in this last stretch of the season. Do you feel like with the Cincinnati game and the other road games that you've already had, that you've established a pretty good process for how you go about road games?
Yeah, I mean, no. I got to find a better way to get our guys to not have this not have our team have that lapse. You know, it hasn't been the entire game. You know, we've played really well in the second half, or pretty good in the second half of most of those road games. It's just like quarter and a half or quarter, like in between the middle of the first and the middle of the second. That's like we've let 3 games really spurt out of control. We came back and won 1. We almost came back versus Tech, made it a 1-score game. Last week we were battling back. We were in it. You know, we weren't really out of the game until the 6-minute mark or the 5-minute mark. At the end there, we were in it. We were close to making 1 possession. So we got to find a way how to mitigate that area of time. And I'm working through that right now. Our staff's working through it. We're talking about the players. Like, what is that's preventing us from, when something bad happens on the road, to responding like we do at home? And that's part of it. That's part of the growth of a team, is to learn yourselves, figure yourself out.